I really can't wait to go to Nod-Krai. Things are getting crazier by the second, and at this point I fear what Snezhnaya is gonna be about, considering it's supposed to be the apex of the story. Anyway, since Nefa's Archon Quest prelude was easy to understand, I decided to merge everything she brought to the table, the Nod-Krai teaser and the web event into one single but packed video. But first, this is a theory video and leaks are prohibited in the comment section. I will use information available in the game, but my theories and conclusions are not to be considered the official lore of the game, unless I got something right and it's confirmed in a later update of the game itself. Well then, let's kneel to the moon and let's get this video started. First, let's quickly go over the new characters. Aino, genius of the Clink Clank Krunkake workshop. Most likely the 3-4-star character will get Nod-Krai, a Hydro character who may own a simple Snezhnayan vision rather than a moon wheel. Jahoda, bounty hunter, so maybe she's from the Voynich Guild. She hangs out at the workshop and she mentioned that she was waiting for the moon to come up, so maybe she works only during the night since Nod-Krai revolves around the moon in general. Minijurin, he doesn't tell people he's a dragon and disguises his wings as a mantle, although his tail literally screams "I'm a dragon." He has a Mondstadt Pyro vision on his tail, but it might be a fake one just like Venti's because he should be able to use Pyro by nature. Jurin's consciousness might still be alive inside of him, so there might be a chance he'll take over Minijurin's body. Nefer, member of the Curatorium of Secrets, so the Voynich Guild, and owns a Dendro moon wheel. She knows a lot of stories from the past and the present, maybe even from the future. Despite the crazy theories going around, she's not a pet, she wouldn't interact with the humans at all, nor is she a Wenad, since it's an animal being. She might be the daughter of a Sumerian woman and an Atlanese man, and she simply moved to Nod-Krai like many others, or her parents did and she was born there. Kirill Chudomirovich Flins, aka just Flins, a member of the Lightkeepers who watches over the cemetery in the north of Nod-Krai. He uses a lantern with a will-o'-the-wisp inside to defeat the monsters of the Wild Hunt, and he owns an Electro moon wheel. On the gravestone we read something about Chudomir Diarnivalkia. Chudomir should be his father's name, reason why Flins has the patronym Chudomirovich, or maybe it's the name of the first torchbearer and every successor carries his name. Arnivalkia instead is the Finnish will-o'-the-wisp that burns over precious treasures. Lama is an Elaphocentaur, an Italian mythological half-deer, half-human being with antlers that I've never heard about despite being Italian myself. She wears a Dendro moon wheel, and she's the current Moonchant envoy of the Frostmoon Science, the descendants of Hyperborea. This faction was instructed by the first Moonchant envoy 500 years ago never to interact with nor harm outsiders, but they are currently fighting the Fatui to survive. Varka, my favorite one, our Grandmaster of the Knights of Favonius, who thank god doesn't actually look like a Venturine, although I do see a hint of Siegfried in him just like I hoped for. He is in Nod-Krai for the moon, but they added Mondstadt in brackets, so considering that he sent part of his soldiers, led by Frederica Gunhilder, back to Port Norman to defend Mondstadt, maybe the nation will be soon in danger. Scaramouche, not a new character, but he's in Nod-Krai to settle a score, and I can't wait to see him fight Dottore, who shouldn't remember him, but if he does, then my theory that Piero is one of the sinners might be right, because the sinners should be way above the reaches of Irminsul. Next is Androne. I still think the real Harbinger is the Fontanian dress automaton, and he's a Lengi 10. After retirement, he locked himself into his workshop where he disappeared, leaving traces of something big being built, and he used to study the Kanrian automatons back at the Institute of Natural Philosophy. This automaton also moved its head when Sandrona said, as if it were speaking through her mouth. Now, Sandrone is called Marionette, a string puppet, and the lady has a massive key in her back like a wind-up doll, so the name makes sense, but I kinda figure out something else. Alain was represented by Al as a hydromimic, and he calls his sister Petit Chou, Little Treasure, in an affectionate way. Real Alain might have done the same with his sister, Marianne, so he might have called her Mary Annette. Do you see where I'm going with this? Marianne, Marionette, Marionette, right? Right? Next is Alice, who doesn't look like adult Valyrian Mirage Klee, but her head looks a little bit too much like Isrost's halo, which terrifies me. She wears a Mondstadt Pyrovision, of course, and she just arrived in Nod-Krai with Albedo and Scaramouche. Before getting to work, she wants to meet an old friend, most likely Nicole, and she received an origami bird letter on which we read Aralos, Solnari, Canon. One of the sinners of Karya, Rerir, is called Rehir of Solnari, and they showed us the moon when Dainslev said this name, so Solnari should be the moon's name, what we used to know as Sonnet, meaning that Aralos is Arya and Canon is Canon, so the Free Moon Sisters. I've seen some weird theories about Alice, and there are two factions on social media. Those who, like me, want to meet the man who made her fall in love, and those who don't want him to exist at all, like Klee being Alice's clone so there's no father involved, or if he exists, then he must be dead. People are basically okay with Klee losing her father just to make Alice single again, which is honestly messed up. It's like Alice would be less important or interesting if she had a man in her life, as if he would taint her existence, while she might have simply wanted to experience some normality in her completely abnormal life, like having a loving family. I mean, since when is love an issue? Also, weird, why does she have this glitch effect on her? I'll skip Columbina for later, which by the way is not even counted as a harbinger anymore, so the last one is Nicole. She's an angel who became human and gave up on her voice in the process, kinda like the Little Mermaid. She wears a small astrolabe in her hair, probably because she's a visionary. She has golden wings, but also a golden halo / crown / tiara we saw rising up as she flapped her wings. Her ribbon looks like a crystal fly, so her symbol on the hexancircle wheel was indeed the butterfly, and her pupils and the mark on her forehead look like March the 7th symbol. A crazy social media theory says that her teacups can be used as a DNA test to say that she's Diluc's mother, ignoring Barbeloth and Anders' daughter also using those cups, as well as Alice when she met Skirk. At this point I'm surprised no one said Hraisli was Varka's long lost son because they wear the same kind of boots. Then Nicole suddenly became Kaya's mother, because his cape remotely looks like her wings. Just because the other witches are raising kids doesn't mean she must be doing the same, you know. Before moving on to the most complicated section of the video, if you're a new viewer, my theory is based on my belief that the Primordial One is not the Heavenly Principles, and I have a video about it with proof to back it up, so if you're interested, the link is in the description. Furthermore, from what we've seen in the web event, but also the Song of the Welkin Moon prelude, I think Nod-Krai will be here on this island, because from the picture on Paha Isle, we can see Ochkanatlan in the distance, while from the Blue Amber Lake, we can see Fontaine and the mountains of the Girl of the Sands in Sumeru. We'll see where this mark will end up being once 6.0 is released. This has become a little game I play all the time, so if you plan on doing the same, tell me where your marks end up being. Okay, it's time to talk about what Nicole told us in the teaser. In a long forgotten era, a now nameless primordial being used to rule over Tevat up until the funerary year, when it was heard cry out in the darkness. People online, for whatever reason, decided that this primordial being is Nibelung, but it doesn't make sense because the funerary year happened only after the Primordial One defeated the Dragon Sovereigns and created Tevat and its inhabitants. Furthermore, differently from this primordial being, Nibelung never lost his name. Apep remembers about him, as well as Shukuatl, the 11th Lord, and above all Kukulkan, the only one who actually mentioned his name. Lastly, Nibelung has already come back to life during the Archon War, so his existence isn't even a secret at all. Now, in Before Sun and Moon, the funerary year is when the Second Throne arrived on Tevat, where it fought and defeated the Primordial One, reason why it never helped the people of Enkanomiya despite the fact that Isroth knew where they were. This Second Throne is also the one the dragons called the Usurper from Beyond the Heavens, because it invaded Tevat, defeated the dragons, and took away their authorities. This should be clear because Nibelung then decided to leave the human realm to acquire the power of the Abyss, most likely from the Void realm, to compensate for the Solen authorities. While Nibelung was away, the Second Throne sent into Teyvat the Heavenly Principles, reason why they're the first Descender, who took over the human realm, entirely replacing the Primordial Creator, as well as the moons. When Nibelung came back, he saw what had happened in his absence, and be it because he got completely corrupted by the Abyss, he lost it, sparking the War of Vengeance, from which only Apep, Xuquatl, and probably Ashtaha survived, while Nibelung sacrificed himself to severely hurt the Heavenly Principles. When it comes to the moons instead, things get even more complicated, but I think I figured it out. The solution is that there have been different versions of the moons created by different entities in different eras, reason why I came up with names to make it easier. The first original version of the moons existed on the old world of the dragons, so I'll call them the Old Moons. I believe this because when the Voyager came back to check on Nibelung, she noticed how the moons had changed, so they were there the first time she met him. Then the Primordial One came, and when Phanes, which is actually Asmodee as I said in this video about the Shades, created Teyvat, it raised 4 moons, I'll call them the Primordial Moons, to govern the cyclical tides of the world in its stead, because the Primordial One, much like the Second Throne, never set foot inside Teyvat. It stayed outside in space, probably on its throne. Of the 4 moons though, one never made it to the sky and fell into the ocean, where it stayed hidden for millennia. Then, when the Primordial Being's rule had long ended, so after the funerary year, Nibelung, the king, reconstructed the 3 moons, which I'll call the Dragon Moons, to govern the cycles of Teyvat in his stead, most likely because he was about to leave Teyvat and needed to defend it from the invaders. We've actually known about this lunar reconstruction for a while now, because Kukulkan talked about it with Xuquatl in one of the memories of the past in the ancient city of Tolan. Now Xuquatl and the 11th Lord went to these 3 moons to ask them for help and to figure out where Nibelung went, but the 3 moon goddesses stayed silent because they had been taken over by the Heavenly Principles, who gained possession of the vows upon which the 3 moons caused the world to turn, reason why the 11th Lord said that they had betrayed the dragons. The Heavenly Principles then burned the snowfields, and this is probably why Nod-Krai isn't frozen like the rest of Snezhnaya, and froze the lava inside the volcanoes, which caused Xuquatl's fake death. When Nibelung came back and went berserk, Xuquatl awoke and he immediately stopped Kukulkan and the Dragon Lords in their attempt to recreate the miracle of lunar reconstruction, so they were trying to recreate the 4th moon as well, something Nibelung probably didn't do on purpose, and considering the mural in Oshkanatlan, I think the Tonatiuh was supposed to be that 4th moon, and we know the dragons had to give up on this project because of the arrival of the Heavenly Principles and the creation of the fake sky. Lastly, after the War of Vengeance, the Voyager came back. The first angel told her/him the truth about the genesis of Teyvat, but the moons witnessed their newly found love and snitched on them to the Heavenly Principles. This is when the angels were cursed and expelled, but for some reason the moons were destroyed as well, because we now know that the dragons cheered for the death of the moons when the heavenly ring, probably the structure around the floating island of Celestia, shattered and the jade plates, the celestial nails, fell to the ground. Something tells me the moons didn't tell the Heavenly Principles about the 4th moon being alive. Not gonna lie, I do wonder if the Shades are somehow connected to the moons, since they're also 4 and 1 split off, but I wasn't able to fit this into the story, so I guess we'll see. So, to conclude, we need to talk about the 4th moon. I think the Fatui took over Nod-Krai a long time ago because they found out about her existence, and when they retrieved her, they placed her in the center of a cyclonic mechanism, probably the Kuvaki Experimental Design Bureau the Fatui built on Paha Isle, which ominously looks like a moon of Teyvat since they're not actually spheres. The Fatui might be trying to siphon the power from both the moon statues and the actual moons, and they were the ones who took down the lunar fragments we found near the signs of the canopy, since we can see Ochkanatlan in the distance in this cutscene, to reconstruct the fourth moon in an attempt to control the firmament, which potentially means that Columbina was recently created. She's an artificial clone of the fourth moon goddess, reason why she looks like the girl on the statue and not the other way around, but also why she's glitching out of existence, because she's probably not complete yet. Now, the flower field where Columbina is reminds me of the nether realm of Amphorius, and in both cases there's the moon in the background. This might actually be a correct association, because the moon wheels had been created by the Heavenly Principles together with the moons for the people of Niflheim, who used them as ritual items, and they were actually the first ever prototype of what later became known as the Visions. Now, in Norse mythology, Niflheimr, the realm of ice and cold, and Muspelheimr, the realm of fire, were the two primordial realms from which everything was created, and eventually the goddess Hel took over Niflheimr and turned it into the afterlife for her subjects, just like the nether realm is for Amphorius. Now, not only do these two realms sound like Natlan and Snezhnaya, so the sun and the moon, but Niflheim in Tevat was actually Hyperborea, the northernmost ancient city of Snezhnaya from which the Frostmoon science came. Interestingly, Hyperborea is where the first angel used to live, and it was destroyed by a celestial nail because she told the Voyager about the true genesis of Tevat, which is basically the same exact thing Nicole, yet another angel, is doing now in Nod-Krai. Even more interestingly, we were shown what the floating island of Celestia looks like up close, and in case you didn't notice, there's still one celestial nail left, and in that same video, the Shades said that they were about to take action on behalf of the Heavenly Principles. This can only mean one catastrophic thing. By the end of the Song of the Welkin Moon version, we might witness in first person what it means to be struck by a celestial nail as retribution from the heavens. And that's it, I hope you liked the video. If you did, don't forget to leave a thumbs up, and if you're interested in Genshin Impact Theory videos, consider subscribing. My next video will be about Bennett's story and Marijivari, and I honestly can't wait to start writing the script because I love this story. Well then, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, over and out.